Christmas dinner at my daughter Sarah's house. I'm standing in her dining room, holding a homemade pecan pie. It spent all morning baking. Sarah's face twists with rage as she points at the chair I'm about to sit in. That seat is my mother-in-law's. Get out. Before I can respond, she shoves me hard. I stumble backward, the pie flying from my hands, splattering across her white carpet. I hit the floor as 12 family members watch in complete silence. Not one person moves to help me up. That's when I knew everything had to change. I picked myself up from the floor, pecan pie smeared across my shirt and pants. The smell of cinnamon and pecans mixed with my humiliation. I looked around at the faces staring at me. My daughter Sarah stood there, 32 years old, arms crossed. Not even a flicker of regret in her eyes. Her husband Brad, 35, stood beside her with his arms crossed too. A mirror of her coldness. Brad's mother, Patricia, sat in that precious chair, the one I'd almost taken, and I swear I saw the corner of her mouth turn up in a smirk. She was 65, dressed in an expensive cream sweater, looking like she'd just won something. Sarah's 2 children, my grandchildren, stood frozen near the Christmas tree. Emma was 8, her little face scrunched up like she was trying not to cry. Lucas was 10, staring at his shoes, his hands balled into fists. My son Michael was there too, 29 years old, sitting at the far end of the table next to his wife Jennifer. When I looked at him, hoping for some support, he looked down at his plate. Jennifer squeezed his hand, but said nothing. 6 other family members, cousins and extended relatives, filled the rest of the chairs. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. I stood there, pie dripping from my clothes onto Sarah's pristine floor. I'm 67 years old. I taught high school history for 40 years. I raised Sarah and Michael mostly on my own after their mother, my Margaret, died from cancer 3 years ago. Those last months with her were the hardest of my life. Watching her fade, holding her hand through the chemo, promising her I'd take care of our kids. I kept that promise. Or at least, I thought I had. 6 months ago, I sold the house Margaret and I had lived in for 33 years. It was too big for just me, too full of memories. Sarah needed help buying a new house. Her and Brad had been renting a small apartment, saving up, but they couldn't get enough for a down payment. When I told Sarah I'd help, she cried. She hugged me so tight and said, "Dad, you're saving us. We could never afford this house without you. You'll always have a home here. Always." I gave her $50,000. It cleaned out most of what I'd saved from selling the house. I kept enough for a small apartment and my pension, but that $50,000 was supposed to be Sarah's future. Our future together. I gave Michael $30,000 around the same time to help with his struggling business. Had started a small consulting firm with a partner, and they were barely keeping the lights on. I wanted to help. That's what fathers do. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment across town. It was small, just 700 square feet, but it was enough for me. I'd been looking forward to this Christmas, my first in Sarah's new home, the home my money had helped buy. I'd spent all morning baking that pecan pie, Margaret's recipe, the one the kids always loved. Now I stood in that dining room, and Sarah didn't apologize. She just said coldly, "You heard me. Leave." Brad finally spoke up, his voice flat. "Sarah told you Patricia was coming. You should have known better than to assume you'd sit at the head of the table." But Sarah hadn't told me. Not once. I'd asked her 3 times last week what I could bring, if there was anything she needed, what time to arrive. She never mentioned Patricia would be there. Never said anything about assigned seating. Patricia spoke up then, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Sarah told you I was coming, Roosevelt. You must have forgotten. At your age, memory starts to go, doesn't it?" I felt something crack inside me. Young Emma started crying, real tears running down her cheeks. She said, "Grandpa, don't go." Sarah whipped around and snapped at her daughter. "Quiet. Grandpa needs to learn boundaries." That word. Boundaries. Like I was some stranger Hode overstepped. Not the man Hode given her $50,000 4 months ago. Not the man who'd raised her. Who'd sat up with her through stomach flus and heartbreaks and college applications. I looked at Michael again. My son. He was staring at his plate like it was the most interesting thing in the world. I waited for him to say something. Anything. He opened his mouth once, then closed it. Jennifer squeezed his hand again. He said nothing. I could have apologized. I could have smoothed it over. Made some joke about being an old fool. Laughed it off. That's what the old Roosevelt would have done. That's what I'd done for years. Swallow the hurt, keep the peace, make everyone comfortable. But as I stood there with pie on my shirt and my hip aching from the fall, I remembered Margaret's last words to me. It was 3 in the morning in that hospital room, and Shed squeezed my hand with what little strength she had left. She said, "Don't let them take advantage of your kindness, Roosevelt. Know your worth." I walked slowly to the coat rack by the front door. My hip really did hurt. I'm not as steady as I used to be, and that fall had jarred something. I put on my coat, a heavy wool, one Margaret had bought me 6 Christmases ago. My hands were shaking as I buttoned it. Sarah called from the dining room, her voice sharp. "Are you seriously leaving? You're going to make a scene." I turned back. The whole family was watching me now. I said quietly, "I gave you $50,000 for this house, Sarah. I thought it would be a place where family mattered. I was wrong." Sarah's face flushed red. "That was a gift. You don't get to hold it over my head." "You're right," I said. "It was a gift, and I'm done giving." I walked out, got to my car, a 12-year-old Toyota Camry that had seen better days. My hands were still shaking as I tried to get the key in the ignition. It took 3 tries. I sat there for a moment in Sarah's driveway, looking at the house. It was beautiful. 2 stories, brick front, big windows with Christmas lights strung across them. I'd helped make that possible, and they'd thrown me out like garbage. My phone buzzed as I pulled onto the street. A text from Michael. "Dad, I'm sorry. I should have said something. Can we talk tomorrow?" I didn't respond. I drove home in silence, my mind churning. The hurt was transforming into something else. Something harder. Anger. Yes. But also clarity. I'd been a fool. A generous fool. But a fool nonetheless. I got back to my apartment at 5:30. It was dark and cold. I'd turned the heat down to save money. I sat in my recliner, the one piece of furniture I'd kept from the old house, and stared at the wall. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Sarah. The text said, "You embarrassed me in front of Brad's family. Don't contact me until you're ready to apologize." I stared at that message for a full minute. She wanted me to apologize. For what? For existing? For assuming I'd be welcome in the house I'd helped pay for? I got up and walked to my small desk in the corner of the living room. I opened my laptop. It was old, slow to start up, but it worked. I started typing. I pulled up email, found the contact information for Donald Sherman, a real estate attorney I'd known since my teaching days. His son had been in my American history class 15 years ago. Good kid. Donald and I had stayed in touch, met for coffee occasionally. "Michael owes you $30,000. Neither of them has made a single payment." Sarah's note says, "Repayment over 5 years, 0 interest. But payments were supposed to start 6 months ago." Michael's note says 3 years. Payments starting 18 months ago. They're both in default, Roosevelt. Serious default. I hadn't remembered the promissory notes clearly. When Sarah had asked me to sign paperwork, Shed said it was just a formality for tax purposes. Something about documenting large gifts between family members. I'd trusted her. I'd signed without reading carefully. Same with Michael. But these weren't gifts. They were loans. Legal, binding loans. Donald continued. "You have every right to demand immediate repayment. If they can't pay, you can place a lien on Sarah's house or garnish Michael's business income. This is serious, Roosevelt. But it's also family. Are you absolutely certain?" I thought about Sarah's face, twisted with disgust as she shoved me. I thought about Michael looking away, too cowardly to defend his own father. I thought about Patricia's smirk. I said, "File everything. Today." Donald was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "It'll take me a few hours to prepare the documents. They'll be served within 72 hours. After that, they have 30 days to pay in full or negotiate. If they refuse, we go to court. And Roosevelt, you'll win. These notes are airtight. I should know. I helped you draft them 6 months ago." I'd forgotten that too. Donald had done the paperwork as a favor, made sure everything was legal and proper. At the time, I'd thought it was silly, unnecessary. Now I was grateful for his thoroughness. I spent the rest of Christmas Day alone. I made myself a sandwich for lunch, turkey on rye, and ate it standing at my kitchen counter. I tried to watch television, but couldn't focus. I kept seeing Sarah's face, kept feeling the impact of hitting that floor. My hip was bruised. a deep purple spreading across my right side. It hurt to sit, hurt to stand. I took some ibuprofen and tried to rest. At 3 in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was Emma, my granddaughter. I could hear her crying before she even spoke. "Grandpa, it's me. I'm using Mommy's phone. She doesn't know. Please don't be mad at Mommy. I miss you." My heart broke all over again. I kept my voice gentle. "Sweetheart, I could never be mad at you. Never. Grandpa just needed to go home. I love you very much. Will you come to my birthday party? It's next month. It'll be 9. I paused. I didn't know what the next month would bring. "Well, see, sweetheart. Well, see." After I hung up, I cried. Real, deep sobs that came from somewhere I didn't know still existed. I cried for Emma and Lucas, who were innocent in all this. I cried for Margaret, who wasn't here to help me navigate this mess. I cried for myself, for the loneliness that pressed down like a weight. That evening, I went for a walk. The neighborhood was quiet. Most families inside with their Christmas dinners and presents. I walked past houses with lights in the windows, heard laughter from inside. I felt more alone than I'd ever felt, even in those first months after Margaret died. When I got back to my apartment, there was a voicemail. I almost didn't listen to it, but something made me press play. It was Patricia, Brad's mother. Her voice was sugary and condescending. "Roosevelt, I hope you understand that Sarah is just protecting her family. Brad's family. You need to respect boundaries. I don't know if I should tell you this, but I think you need to know. I was outside earlier having a cigarette. Sarah and Brad were on their porch. They didn't see me. I heard Sarah laughing. She said, 'I can't believe he actually thought that money was a gift.' My lawyer said as long as we make it look like we're planning to pay him back eventually, he can't do anything. And now, he's out of our hair for good." The words hit me like another shove. Thomas continued. "Brad laughed too. He said something about you being naive. Then Patricia came out and said you were too old to matter anymore. Roosevelt, I'm sorry. I thought you should know what kind of people they really are." I thanked Thomas and hung up. I sat in the darkness of my apartment, phone in my hand. It wasn't just cruelty. It wasn't just a bad day or stress or Patricia's influence. It was calculated. Planned. Sarah had never intended to pay me back. Shed used me, manipulated me, and then discarded me when I was no longer useful. The rage that had been simmering all day crystallized into something cold and sharp. I called Donald back. He answered on the second ring. "Roosevelt, file everything," I said. "And Donald? Make sure there's no room for negotiation. I want full repayment in 30 days. Or, I take everything." 2 days after Christmas, Sarah woke up in her beautiful house, the house my money had helped buy. She made coffee in her expensive new coffee maker, the one Shed bought with her Christmas bonus. She felt good. Brad had already left for work. The kids were still asleep. She had the house to herself for an hour, and she planned to enjoy the quiet. The doorbell rang at 8:15 in the morning. Sarah answered it in her bathrobe, her hair still messy from sleep. A man in a brown uniform stood there, holding a large manila envelope. He looked at his clipboard. "Sarah Henderson. Yes. You've been served." He handed her the envelope and walked away before she could ask questions. Sarah stood in her doorway, confused. She tore open the envelope right there. Inside were legal documents, thick and official-looking. She scanned the first page. The words jumped out at her. "Legal demand for immediate repayment. $50,000. Promissory note. Default. Lien on property." Her hands started shaking. She read it again, slower. It was from Donald Sherman, attorney at law, representing Roosevelt Henderson. My attorney. I was suing her. I was demanding she pay me back $50,000 in 30 days, or I'd take her house. Sarah stumbled back into her house, documents clutched in her hands. She read through everything. There it was, her signature on the promissory note from 6 months ago. She remembered signing it now, remembered me saying it was just paperwork for the IRS, nothing to worry about. But it was real, legally binding, and she was in default. She hadn't made a single payment. She called me immediately. 8:17 in the morning. I was eating breakfast, plain oatmeal, with a sliced banana, when my phone rang. I saw her name and let it ring. She called again. 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 After the fourth call, she left a voicemail. Her voice was panicked, high-pitched. "Dad, what the hell is this? You can't do this. This is insane. Call me back right now." She called Brad next. I found this out later from Michael, who heard it from Jennifer, who heard it from Sarah. The family gossip chain was working overtime. Brad was in a meeting at work, but Sarah called him 6 times until he answered. She was hysterical. Brad told her to calm down, that I couldn't possibly enforce this, that the money was a gift, and everyone knew it. But Sarah knew better now. Shed read the promissory note. Her signature was right there. She called their family lawyer. A woman named Amanda Hode helped them with the house closing. Sarah read the documents over the phone, her voice shaking. Amanda was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Sarah, this is legitimate. You signed a promissory note. The terms are clear. You were supposed to start making payments 6 months ago. You're in default. Your father has every legal right to demand full repayment." "But he's my father," Sarah practically screamed into the phone. "He gave us that money for the house. According to this document, he loaned you that money. There's a difference. Legally, you owe him $50,000. Do you have it?" Sarah and Brad had almost nothing in savings. They'd spent everything furnishing the new house. New furniture, new appliances, new everything. They'd maxed out 2 credit cards. Brad's salary was good, around $90,000 a year. But with the mortgage, car payments, credit card debt, and 2 kids, there was nothing left. Coming up with $50,000 in 30 days was impossible. "What happens if we can't pay?" Sarah asked. Amanda's response was blunt. "He can place a lien on your house. He can force a sale. He can garnish Brad's wages. And according to this notice of intent, he plans to do exactly that." Sarah felt the world tilt. She sat down hard on her kitchen floor, phone pressed to her ear. This couldn't be happening. I was her father. I wouldn't actually take her house. Would I? She tried calling me again. 10 calls in a row. I finally answered on the 11th. My voice was calm, cold. "Sarah, Dad, please. Please. We can talk about this. I'm sorry about Christmas." I was stressed. Patricia was in my ear all day, telling me I needed to set boundaries with you, and I just snapped. "I didn't mean it. Please don't do this." I let her finish. Then I said, "You shoved me to the floor in front of my grandchildren. Sarah. You told me to get out of the house my money paid for. And then you laughed about it with your husband. Told your neighbor that you never intended to pay me back." "Yes," Thomas told me. "He thought I should know what kind of person my daughter really is." Sarah went silent. She hadn't known anyone had heard that conversation. "Dad, I didn't mean it like that. I was just venting. You know how it is. People say things they don't mean." "You meant it," I said. "And now you're going to face the consequences. We don't have $50,000. You know we don't. You're going to make us lose our house over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" "Sarah, you signed a legal document promising to pay me back. You've made 0 payments. That's not a misunderstanding. That's theft. I'm your daughter. And you're a grown woman who made a commitment. Honor it." "How? How are we supposed to come up with that money in 30 days? I paused. Let the silence hang there. Then I said, "That's not my problem. You have 30 days. Figure it out." "Dad, please, I have to go." "Sarah." I hung up. She immediately called Michael. Michael answered, sounding exhausted. "I know," he said before Sarah could speak. "I got served yesterday. $30,000. I don't have it either." They talked for an hour, both of them spiraling. Michael's business partner Gary had found out about the debt and was furious. Had threatened to dissolve their partnership if this lawsuit affected the company's finances. Michael was panicking. His marriage was strained. Jennifer was supportive, but scared. They had a mortgage too. A baby on the way. $30,000 might as well have been $1 million. Sarah and Michael decided to come see me together. They showed up at my apartment that evening, unannounced. At 6:30, I opened the door and saw them both standing there. Sarah's eyes were red and swollen from crying. Michael looked like he hadn't slept. "Can we come in?" Sarah asked, her voice small. I stepped aside. They came into my tiny apartment. Sarah looked around. Really looked. For the first time. She saw how small it was. 1 bedroom, a cramped kitchen, old furniture, a single reading lamp in the corner. This was what I'd kept for myself after giving them everything. We sat in my living room, me in my recliner, them on the old couch Margaret and I had bought 23 years ago. Michael spoke first. "Dad, I know I messed up. I should have been making payments. I meant to. The business has just been so hard. We've been barely surviving. I kept thinking next month would be better. and then it never was. I'm sorry. I nodded but didn't speak. Sarah tried next. I thought it was a gift. I really did. I know there was paperwork, but you told me it was just for taxes. I didn't think you'd actually expect us to pay you back. Did I say that? I asked. Or did you hear what you wanted to hear? Silence. You've had 6 months, Sarah. Not once did you ask about payments. Not once did you check in to see how I was doing. If I needed anything. You took the money and forgot about me. That's not fair, Sarah said, her voice rising. I invited you to Christmas, and then you shoved me to the floor and threw me out. Sarah flinched. More silence. Michael leaned forward. What do you want from us? We're sorry. We really are. But we don't have this money. You're going to destroy both of us. I leaned back in my chair. I want you to understand what you did. I want you to feel what I felt on Christmas. Helpless. Humiliated. Disposable. Sarah started crying again. We get it. We do. But Dad, please. What if we make payments? Monthly payments. We can do that. It'll take time, but we'll pay you back every penny. The promissory notes are in default. I want full payment in 30 days. That's impossible. Michael nearly shouted. You know that's impossible. I stood up. Then, you'll learn to live with less. Like I have. Now please leave. They both stared at me. Sarah whispered. You've changed. No, I said. I finally woke up. They left. I watched from my window as they got into their cars and drove away. I felt no satisfaction, just a deep, bone-tired sadness. 1 week passed. Sarah's life was unraveling. She and Brad fought every night after the kids went to bed. Brad blamed her for not reading the paperwork more carefully. Sarah blamed him for not supporting her better at Christmas, for letting his mother poison their family. They yelled in harsh whispers, trying not to wake Emma and Lucas, but the tension in the house was suffocating. Sarah tried to borrow money from friends. She called 3 close friends from college, made up a story about unexpected medical bills. None of them had enough to help. She looked into home equity loans, but they'd only owned the house for 6 months. There was no equity to borrow against. Brad asked his boss for an advance on his salary. His boss said no, company policy wouldn't allow it. Patricia, Brad's mother, refused to help. Sarah called her, swallowed her pride, explained the situation. Patricia's response was cold. You got yourself into this mess, Sarah. You need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet. I'm not bailing you out. Besides, maybe losing the house will teach you some humility. Sarah hung up and cried for 2 hours. Michael was drowning too. His business partner Gary had given him an ultimatum. Buy him out or dissolve the partnership. Gary didn't want to be tied to someone with massive personal debts. Michael had no way to buy Gary out. He was looking at losing his business. The thing had worked 5 years to build. Michael called Jennifer's parents, asked for a loan. They were sympathetic, but firm. We're already helping you with the baby expenses, Michael. We can't give you $30,000. We don't have it. 1 week and 3 days after they were served, Michael called Sarah. What if we go public? Make him look bad. Sarah was exhausted, desperate. What do you mean? Social media. Post about what he's doing. Make people pressure him to back off. Sarah hesitated. It felt wrong, manipulative, but she was out of options. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it. That afternoon, Sarah posted on her Facebook page. She had around 800 friends, mostly people from high school, college, old co-workers, neighbors. She wrote, My father gave me money to help buy my house. Now he's suing me for it because of a disagreement we had, as threatening to take my home away from my children. I never thought my own father would be this cruel. If you know Roosevelt Henderson, please talk to him. Help him see what he's doing to his family. She attached a photo. It was from Emma's 7th birthday. Sarah and the kids smiling at the camera, looking happy. The implication was clear. This happy family was being destroyed by a vindictive old man. Within 2 hours, the post had been shared 100 times. The comments started rolling in. Most were supportive of Sarah. That's horrible. How could a father do that? Sue him back for emotional distress. Family should never do this to each other. But some people pushed back. There has to be more to this story. Did you actually owe him the money? Why are you putting this on social media instead of working it out privately? Sarah ignored those comments. She wanted sympathy, not truth. The post reached 600 shares by evening. Someone tagged me in the comments. I didn't see it right away. I don't check Facebook often. Maybe once every few weeks. But Nancy, A former colleague from my teaching days called me. Roosevelt. What's going on? I saw Sarah's post. I felt my stomach drop. What post? Nancy read it to me. I sat down hard. Sarah had twisted everything. Made me look like a monster. I asked Nancy to send me a screenshot. When I saw it, saw that photo of Sarah and the kids looking vulnerable, I felt rage and hurt warring inside me. I didn't respond publicly. Instead, I did something more strategic. I thought about who I could trust, who would listen to the truth. I identified 3 people who had commented defending Sarah, people I knew from church or community events. I sent them each a private message. The message included scanned copies of the promissory notes, the legal timeline, photos of my bank statements showing the $50,000 transfer, and 0 payments received. I wrote, "I'm not asking you to take my side. I'm asking you to know the truth before you judge me." My daughter shoved me to the floor at Christmas dinner and threw me out of the house I helped her buy. She signed a legal document, promising to repay the money. Shays made 0 payments. I'm not being cruel. I'm being fair. One of those 3 people was Melissa, a woman from church who'd known our family for 20 years. Melissa had been at Margaret's funeral, had brought casseroles during those awful first months. She read everything I sent. Then she commented on Sarah's post. Melissa wrote, "Sarah, I've seen the documents your father sent me. He loaned you that money with a legal contract. You haven't made any payments. This isn't about a disagreement. This is about a debt you're not honoring. I love you, but this post is misleading." Other people started questioning Sarah's story. Wait, so you did sign a contract? Why haven't you been paying him back? This sounds like there's more going on. Sarah tried to control the narrative, responding to comments, insisting it was a gift, that I was holding it over her head, but the tide had turned. People were skeptical now. The post that was supposed to pressure me into backing down had backfired. Sarah called me, furious. "You sent people private messages? You're trying to turn everyone against me." "I sent them the truth," I said calmly. "Something you seem allergic to." "I hate you," she said. The words were raw, vicious. "I wish you'd never been my father. I should have been hurt, but I just felt tired." "I'm sorry you feel that way, Sarah. The offer stands. 30 days. Full repayment." She hung up on me. That night, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone rang. It was Emma again. I almost didn't answer. I didn't want to put her in the middle of this. But I couldn't ignore her. Grandpa. Her voice was so small. "Hi, sweetheart. Mommy has been crying every day. Daddy is always yelling. I'm scared, Grandpa. Can you please fix it? I miss you so much." My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone pressed to my ear, tears running down my face. "Emma. Honey. Sometimes grown-ups have problems that are hard to fix, but I promise you, everything is going to be okay. Will you come visit? Please. I'll try, sweetheart. I love you very much. I love you too, Grandpa." After I hung up, I sat there for a long time. I thought about Emma and Lucas. They didn't deserve this. They were innocent. But was backing down really the answer? Would that teach Sarah and Michael anything? Or would it just confirm that they could treat me however they wanted without consequences? I thought about Margaret. What would she want me to do? I closed my eyes and tried to imagine her sitting beside me, her hand in mine. I think she'd say, "Do what's right, Roosevelt, not what's easy." The next morning, I called Donald. "I want to offer them a settlement." Donald was surprised. "What kind of settlement?" "Drop the immediate repayment demand. Set up a payment plan they can actually afford. Monthly installments over time. But I want something in return. I want a written apology from both of them. A real one. Acknowledging what happened at Christmas and why I'm doing this. And they have to stick to the payment schedule. One missed payment, and the full amount is due immediately." Donald was quiet. "Roosevelt, you have them cornered. You could win everything." "I don't want to win everything, Donald. I want my family back. Or at least, I want to know I tried." Donald sighed. "I'll draft the settlement offer. But Roosevelt, if they reject this, you're back to square one." "I know." By noon, the settlement offer was ready. Donald sent it via email to both Sarah and Michael. The terms were clear. Sarah would pay me $500 a month for 10 years. Michael would pay $300 a month for 10 years. No interest. If they accepted and stuck to the schedule, the debt would be cleared. If they missed even one payment, the full amount became due immediately, and I could pursue all legal remedies. The catch was the written apology. They had to acknowledge, in writing, what they'd done. The disrespect. The failure to honor their commitments. The pain they'd caused. Sarah received the email at 1 in the afternoon. She was at work, trying to focus on a spreadsheet, but her mind was a mess. When she saw the email, her hands shook as she opened it. She read through it twice. 500 a month. That was manageable. Barely, but possible. They'd have to cut back on everything. No more eating out, no more vacations, no more impulse purchases. But they could do it. Then she got to the part about the apology letter. She had to write it herself. No lawyer jargon, no generic statements. She had to explain, in her own words, what she'd done and why it was wrong. She called Michael immediately. "Did you see the settlement offer?" "Yeah, 300 a month. I can do that. It'll be tight, but I can do it." "But the apology letter," Sarah said. "He wants us to grovel." "Sarah?" We shoved him to the floor and threw him out of the house. "Maybe we should grovel." Sarah went quiet. Deep down, she knew Michael was right. That evening, Sarah sat at her kitchen table with a blank piece of paper and a pen. Brad was at work. Emma and Lucas were at a friend's house. She had the house to herself, and she needed to write this letter. But she didn't know where to start. She thought back over the years. After Margaret died, it'd been there for everything. Babysitting, help with homework, fixing the leaky sink in their old apartment. Always available, always patient. When they'd wanted to buy the house, but couldn't afford it, it'd offered the money, before they even asked. She remembered how grateful Shed felt then. How Shed hugged me, and cried happy tears. When did that gratitude turn into entitlement? When did she start seeing me as a resource, instead of a person? She started writing. "Dad, I'm sorry for what happened at Christmas." Then she stopped, crumpled the paper. That wasn't enough. Not even close. Brad came home early and found her surrounded by crumpled papers. "Still working on that letter. I don't know what to say. Sorry feels meaningless." Brad sat down across from her. "Sarah, I need to tell you something. I pushed you to treat your dad that way at Christmas. My mom kept saying he was too involved, that he needed to respect that this was our house now. She said you needed to set boundaries, and I agreed with her. I told you to put him in his place. That was wrong. This is partly my fault." Sarah looked at her husband. Really looked at him. "You're right. But I'm the one who shoved him. I did that. I said those things. I can't blame Patricia, or you. I have to own it." She started writing again. This time, the words came. Michael wrote his letter too. His was shorter, but just as honest. He admitted to being a coward, to standing by while Sarah hurt me. He admitted he'd spent the loan money poorly, and then avoided me out of shame. He wrote, "You taught me to be a man of integrity. I failed you. I failed myself. I'm ready to do better." The next day, Sarah and Michael met up. They exchanged letters, read each other's. Both of them were crying by the end. They drove together to my apartment. They didn't knock. They just slid the letters under my door along with signed copies of the settlement agreement. Then they left. I came home from a walk around 4 in the afternoon and found the envelopes. 2 of them, thick and official looking. I sat down in my recliner and opened Sarah's first. I read it slowly, every word. When I got to the part where she wrote, ashamed, I had to stop and wipe my eyes. This was the Sarah I remembered. The girl who'd cried when she accidentally broke Margaret's favorite vase. The young woman who'd stayed up all night helping her brother study for his college exams. She was still in there, underneath the entitlement and the influence of Patricia. I opened Michael's letter next. His handwriting was messier, more hurried, but the emotion was clear. He owned his mistakes, took responsibility. That was all I'd wanted, just for them to see what they'd done. I sat there for a long time, those letters in my lap. I thought about Margaret, about what she'd want. I thought about Emma's small voice on the phone, scared and confused. I thought about the weight it'd been carrying, the anger that had consumed me for weeks. I called Donald. "Accept the settlement. File the paperwork." Donald sounded relieved. "You're doing the right thing, Roosevelt." "I hope so." That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, my phone rang at 9. It was Patricia. I almost didn't answer, but morbid curiosity got the better of me. "Roosevelt," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I heard you're letting them pay you back in installments. How generous of you. destroying my son's marriage over money. I took a deep breath. Patricia, your son's marriage was strained long before I got involved. Sarah told me what you're making her do. Writing apology letters like a child. You're a bitter old man who can't stand that his daughter has a new family now? Is that what you think happened? I know what happened. You showed up uninvited, tried to take my seat, and threw a tantrum when Sarah set a reasonable boundary. I laughed. Actually, laughed. It was so absurd, so twisted from reality, that I couldn't help it. Patricia, I paid for $50,000 of that house. Sarah shoved me to the ground, and you sat there and smiled. Whatever relationship you and I had, it's done. Don't call me again. Patricia's voice turned vicious. Brad will choose his mother over his broke father-in-law. You'll see. Then, Brad is as broken as you are. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Patricia had been poisoning this family for years, whispering in Sarah's ear, driving wedges between people. She was toxic, and Shed nearly destroyed everything. I called Sarah. She answered immediately, her voice tentative. Dad, I got your letter. And Michael's. Silence. Then, and I accept your apology. Not because the words were perfect, but because I believe you meant them. Sarah started crying. Thank you. Thank you so much. But Sarah, we need to talk about Patricia. She went quiet. What about her? She called me today. She's toxic. She's been driving a wedge between us for years, hasn't she? Yes, Sarah whispered. Yes, she has. You need to set boundaries with her. Real ones. Or she'll destroy your marriage and your relationship with your kids. I know. Brad and I have been talking about it. We're going to limit contact with her. She's not welcome at our house anymore unless she can be respectful, Brad told her yesterday. She screamed at him for 20 minutes, then hung up on him. Good, I said. That's good. You're protecting your family. I'm trying, Sarah said. Dad, I want to ask you something. Would you like to see Emma and Lucas? Maybe take them for ice cream this weekend. My throat tightened. I would love that. They miss you so much. I miss them too. And Sarah, we're going to be okay. It'll take time, but we're going to be okay. Sarah was crying harder now. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. That Saturday, I picked up Emma and Lucas from Sarah's house. The kids ran to me, nearly knocking me over with their hugs. I held them tight, breathing in the smell of their shampoo, feeling their small arms around my waist. Sarah watched from the doorway, smiling through tears. I took them to Scoops and Smiles, their favorite ice cream place downtown. Emma got chocolate chip cookie dough in a waffle cone. Lucas got mint chocolate chip in a cup. We sat in a booth by the window, and they talked non-stop. Emma told me about her new puppy, a rescue dog named Biscuit. Lucas told me about his basketball team, how Head scored 8 points in their last game. I just listened, soaking it all in. This was what mattered. Not the money, not the house, not even the apology. This, being here with my grandchildren, being part of their lives. Emma got serious suddenly. Grandpa, are you and Mommy friends again? I thought about how to answer. We're working on it, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and it takes time to fix them. But we're trying. That's what's important. Lucas said, Mommy cried a lot. She said it was her fault you went away. It was complicated, buddy. But what matters is, we're here now. Right. Right, Emma said, smiling. She had chocolate on her nose. I reached over with a napkin and wiped it off. She giggled. Meanwhile, Michael had been keeping his promise too. His first payment of $300 hit my bank account on time. Head called me the week before. Just to chat. We talked for an hour about nothing important. Sports, the weather, a book Head been reading. It felt like the beginning of something real. The following Sunday, Michael stopped by my apartment. He brought lunch, sandwiches from a deli we both liked. We ate together at my small kitchen table. He told me about his business, how things were stabilizing. Gary had decided not to dissolve the partnership after seeing Michael take responsibility. I'm going to make this right, Dad, Michael said. I'm going to pay back every penny. And not just because I have to, because it's right. I know you will, I said. We spent the afternoon together. Michael helped me fix a squeaky hinge on my bedroom door. Then we watched a basketball game on my small television. It was comfortable, easy, like old times. 3 weeks later, Sarah's first payment arrived. $500, exactly on time. She included a note in the memo line. First of many. Thank you for giving us a chance. I deposited the check and sat looking at my bank account. The money was coming back, slowly but surely. But more than that, my family was coming back. It wasn't the same as before. That family was gone, broken beyond repair. But this new family, built on honesty and accountability and hard-won respect, felt stronger somehow. November approached. Thanksgiving. A year since the disaster at Christmas. Sarah called me on a Tuesday evening. Dad, I know this might be too soon, but would you come to Thanksgiving dinner? Here, at our house, just family. No, Patricia. She's not welcome anymore. I hesitated. The memories of Christmas were still fresh. Sarah, I don't know if I'm ready. I understand. But the invitation is open. The kids really want you here. We all do. Let me think about it. I'd been seeing a counselor, Dr. Harris, for the past 6 months. It was something Donald had suggested, and I'd finally taken the advice. Dr. Harris was in his 50s, calm and thoughtful, with a small office downtown. We met every other week. At my next session, I told him about the Thanksgiving invitation. Dr. Harris leaned back in his chair. What are you afraid of, Roosevelt? That it'll happen again. That I'll let my guard down, and they'll hurt me again. That's a valid fear. But you've spent this year setting boundaries and demanding respect. Do you think Sarah understands that now? I thought about her letter, about her tears on the phone, about the payments arriving on time every month. I think so. I hope so. Then maybe it's time to test that hope. I called Sarah back that night. I'll come to Thanksgiving, but I need you to promise me something. Anything, Dad. If I ever feel disrespected in your home again, I'm gone. For good. No second chances. You have my word. That will never happen again. Thanksgiving Day arrived. I spent the morning baking a pumpkin pie, using Margaret's old recipe. My hands shook as I rolled out the crust, and I had to stop twice to wipe my eyes. But I finished it. It looked pretty good, golden brown with a perfect lattice top. I arrived at Sarah's house at 1 in the afternoon, holding that pie carefully. Sarah opened the door, and her face lit up. Dad, come in. The house smelled amazing. Turkey and stuffing, and all the things that make Thanksgiving feel like home. Emma and Lucas ran to me, screaming my name. I set the pie down just in time to catch them as they crashed into me. I held them tight, feeling their joy, their complete and innocent love. Brad shook my hand. Good to see you, sir. Really good. He looked me in the eye, and I saw genuine remorse there. Thank you for coming. Michael and Jennifer were already there, sitting on the couch. Michael stood and hugged me. Hey, Dad. Hey, son. The dining table was set beautifully, but I noticed right away that there was no head of the table arrangement. It was casual, comfortable. 6 chairs around a round table, everyone equal. We ate and laughed and told stories. Sarah made a toast to second chances, and to the man who taught us what integrity looks like, even when it was hard. Dad, we love you. Everyone raised their glasses. I felt emotion rising in my throat. I looked around the table. My children, my grandchildren, all together. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. After dinner, Sarah and I washed dishes together in the kitchen. It was just like old times. She washed, I dried. Sarah said, Dad, I need to tell you something. Brad and I have been going to counseling. We're working on our marriage, working on setting boundaries with his mother. That's good. Sarah, really good. And I've been thinking about what you said, about taking you for granted. I don't want to be that person anymore. I want to be someone Emma and Lucas can be proud of. You're already on your way. She turned to me, soap suds on her hands. I love you, Dad. I'm so sorry for everything. I set down the dish towel and hugged her. I love you too. And I forgive you. We stood there in her kitchen, holding each other, both of us crying a little. It felt like something had healed. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. Then, there was a knock at the door. Sarah pulled back, confused. I'm not expecting anyone. She went to answer it. I heard the door open. Then Patricia's voice. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I brought green bean casserole. My stomach dropped. Sarah's voice was firm. Mom, Patricia, I told you we were having a private family dinner this year. Oh, don't be silly. I'm family. I heard her push past Sarah. I walked to the entryway. Patricia was standing in the hallway, holding a casserole dish, wearing an expensive burgundy sweater. When she saw me, her smile faltered. Oh, Hez, Here. Brad stood up from the dining room table. Mom, you need to leave. Patricia looked shocked. Excuse me. We talked about this. You're not welcome here today. We need space from you. Bradley, I'm your mother. And you've been toxic to my wife and her family for years. Sarah and I are working on our marriage, and that means setting boundaries with you. Patricia's face turned red. She looked at me. This is your fault. You turned my son against me. I kept my voice calm. Patricia, your son is making his own choices. Respect them. I will not be disrespected in my son's home. Sarah stepped forward. This is my home, and you need to leave. Now. Patricia stood there, furious, her hands shaking. Then she threw the casserole dish on the floor. It shattered, green beans and fried onions splattering everywhere. You're all going to regret this. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. For a moment, everyone just stood there, in shocked silence. Then, Emma giggled. Lucas started laughing too. Soon, everyone was laughing, the tension breaking like a dam bursting. Sarah looked at the mess on her floor. Well, I guess we're not having green bean casserole. Brad hugged her. I'm proud of you. I grabbed paper towels and helped clean up the broken dish. The rest of the evening continued. Lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. We played board games with the kids, drank coffee, ate pie. It was simple. Perfect. 6 months later, spring had arrived. The trees in my neighborhood were blooming. Pink and white petals drifting down onto sidewalks. I was sitting in my apartment, looking at my bank account on my laptop. Sarah and Michael had made every single payment on time. Not one missed. Not one late. $6,000 had come back to me so far. But the money wasn't what mattered anymore. What mattered was that they'd kept their word. They'd shown up, month after month, proving they were serious, proving they'd changed. My phone rang. It was Donald, my attorney. Roosevelt. I wanted to check in. How are things with your kids? Better. Much better. They're keeping their promises. I'm glad. You did a hard thing, but it was the right thing. Was it? I still wonder sometimes if I should have just let it go. Donald was quiet for a moment. Roosevelt. Letting it go would have taught them that they could treat you however they wanted without consequences. You taught them accountability. That's love. Just a tough kind of love. I'd never thought about it that way. Yeah, I guess it is. Emma's 9th birthday party was that weekend. It was at a local park, one with a big playground and picnic tables. When I arrived, the place was full of kids running around. Balloons tied to trees, a table loaded with presents, and a big pink cake. Emma saw me and came running. Grandpa, you came. I caught her in a hug. Of course I came, sweetheart. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Will you push me on the swings? Absolutely. We walked over to the swing set, Emma chattering about her friends in school and her new favorite book. I pushed her gently, watching her hair fly back, hearing her laugh. After a few minutes, she said, Grandpa, I'm glad you're back. I missed you so much. I missed you too, Emma. More than you know. Mommy says you taught her an important lesson. What was it? I thought carefully about how to answer. I taught her that love doesn't mean letting people hurt you. Real love means respecting each other, even when it's hard. Emma nodded seriously. That's smart. Your grandma taught me that. I'm just passing it along. Later, Michael pulled me aside. We were standing near the picnic tables, watching the kids play pin the tail on the donkey. Dad, I wanted to tell you something. I landed a big contract last month. The business is finally stable, really stable. That's wonderful, son. And I talked to Gary. We worked things out. I showed him I was serious about being responsible, and he decided to stay. We're actually doing well now. I felt pride swell in my chest. I'm proud of you, Michael. I'm also going to start paying you back faster. I want to increase my payments to $500 a month. I want this debt cleared. Michael, you don't have to do that. The agreement is $300. Yes, I do. Not because I have to, but because it's right. You worked your whole life for that money. I need to honor that. I felt tears forming. I pulled Michael into a hug. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you for not giving up on me. You could have. But you didn't. As the party wound down, Sarah sat next to me on a park bench. We watched the kids play on the jungle gym. Sarah said quietly, Dad, Brad and I have decided to add your name to the house deed. I turned to her, surprised. What? Sarah, you don't have to do that. Yes, we do. You paid for a huge part of that house. And more than that, I want you to know you're always welcome there. Always. It's your home, too. Sarah, that's too much. It's not enough. Not after what I did. But it's a start. What about the loan? You're still paying that back. Well, keep paying. Every month. That's our responsibility. But having your name on the deed means you're part of this family in a real, permanent way. I never want you to feel like an outsider again. I couldn't speak for a moment. The gesture was huge, and I knew it. Sarah took my hand. And Dad? Brad and I are expecting another baby, due in November. I felt my heart swell. Sarah, that's wonderful news. I want this baby to grow up knowing their grandpa, really knowing you. Not just as someone we see on holidays, but as someone who's part of our everyday life. I want you there for doctor's appointments, if you want to come. For the birth, if you're comfortable. For all of it. I'd like that. I'd really like that. I know I can never undo what I did at Christmas, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know how much you matter, how much we love you. That night, back in my apartment, I sat at my desk with my journal. Dr. Harris had suggested I keep one, and I'd been writing in it regularly for months. It helped me process everything, helped me understand my own feelings. I wrote, I used to think that being a good father meant always saying yes, always sacrificing, always putting my children's needs above my own. I thought love meant absorbing pain without complaint. I thought being kind meant being a doormat. But Margaret was right. Love also means teaching people how to treat you. It means standing up for yourself, even when it costs you. It means demanding respect, not just giving it freely to everyone, regardless of how they treat you. I taught my children that their choices have consequences. I taught them that my kindness isn't weakness, and my forgiveness isn't automatic. And in doing that, I think I finally taught them what real love looks like. It's not always soft, it's not always comfortable, but it's always honest. And it's always worth fighting for. I closed the journal and looked around my small apartment. It wasn't much. The furniture was old. The space was cramped. The carpet was worn. But it was mine. And more importantly, I had my dignity back. I had my family back. Not the family from before. That was gone, broken beyond repair. But a new family, built on honesty and accountability, and real, hard-won love. My phone buzzed. 3 texts came in almost simultaneously. Sarah, good night, Dad. Love you. Thank you for today. Michael, great party. Let's grab lunch this week. My treat. Emma, Grandpa, I love you so much. Thank you for coming to my party, followed by about 20 heart emojis. I smiled and typed back responses to each of them. Simple messages. Love you too. Lunch sounds great. I love you, Emma. I looked at the photo on my desk. The one of Margaret, from our 30th anniversary. She was smiling at the camera, her eyes bright, full of life. That was taken just 8 months before the cancer diagnosis. I picked up the frame and traced her face with my finger. I did it, Maggie, I whispered. I stood up. I demanded better, and we're going to be okay. I could almost hear her voice in my head, warm and proud. I knew you would, Roosevelt. I always knew you would. I set the photo back down and went to bed. For the first time in over a year, I felt truly at peace. 1 year after that terrible Christmas, I woke up on Christmas morning in my apartment. For a moment, I just lay there, thinking about how much had changed. A year ago, I'd woken up excited, planning to see my family, holding that pecan pie. I'd ended the day on the floor of my apartment, humiliated and alone, making the hardest decision of my life. Now, a year later, everything was different. I got up and made coffee. While it brewed, I checked my bank account. Another payment had come through yesterday. Sarah's $500, Michael's $500. Head increased his payments, like Head promised. In total, I'd received back $12,000. But the money wasn't the victory. The victory was what it represented. Consistency. Commitment. Change. My phone rang at 8 in the morning. It was Sarah. Merry Christmas, Dad. Are you ready? We're picking you up at 10. This year, we were spending Christmas at my apartment. It was Sarah's idea. Shed said, I want to come to you this year, Dad. I want to be in your space, to see your home the way you see it. And I want the kids to understand that Grandpa's home is important too. At 10 on the dot, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Sarah, Brad, Emma, and Lucas standing there, arms full of bags and presents. Emma was wearing a red dress with a white collar. Lucas had on a button-up shirt, looking more grown-up than his 11 years. Sarah was glowing. She was 6 months pregnant now, and it showed. She looked beautiful. "Merry Christmas, Grandpa." Emma threw her arms around me. They came in, filling my small apartment with noise and energy. Brad set up a portable table Head brought, extending my tiny kitchen table so we could all fit. Sarah pulled out dishes of food, enough to feed an army. Michael and Jennifer arrived 15 minutes later with their baby, a 6-month-old girl named Margaret, named after my wife. When Michael had told me they were naming the baby after her mom, Id cried. We ate and laughed and opened presents. I'd gotten Emma a set of books she'd been wanting, and Lucas a basketball signed by his favorite player. For Sarah and Brad, Id framed a photo of all of us from Thanksgiving, everyone smiling around that table. Sarah cried when she opened it. They'd gotten me a new recliner, a nice one that didn't squeak. "Your old one is falling apart, Dad," Sarah said. "We wanted you to be comfortable." After lunch, while the kids played with their new toys in the living room, Sarah and I sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee. She said, "Dad, I want to tell you something. Every month when I write that check to you, I think about what you taught me. About accountability. About respect. About not taking people for granted. It's changing how I parent Emma and Lucas. I want them to grow up understanding that actions have consequences, that people matter, that love isn't just a feeling, but a choice you make every day. That's all I ever wanted," I said. Brad joined us at the table. "Roosevelt, I owe you an apology too. I let my mother poison our family. I stood by while Sarah treated you badly. I was weak, but I'm working on it. I'm in therapy, trying to understand why I let her control me for so long. And I've cut off contact with Patricia completely. She calls, but I don't answer. She's toxic, and I won't let her near my family anymore. That takes strength," I said. "I'm proud of you." Michael came over, baby Margaret in his arms. She was making happy baby noises, grabbing at his nose. "Dad, I have something for you." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and handed it to me. I opened it. Inside was a check for $6,000. I looked up, confused. "Michael, what is this?" "It's the rest of what I owe you. I got a year-end bonus from the big contract. It's enough to clear my debt completely. I'm paid off, Dad. We're square." I stared at the check. "Michael, you don't have to do this all at once. The agreement was monthly payments." "I know, but I want to. I want this debt cleared so that every time we talk, every time we see each other, there's nothing between us but love. No obligations, no payments hanging over us, just family." I stood and hugged my son, that check still in my hand. Over his shoulder, I could see Sarah watching us, tears in her eyes. That evening, after everyone left, I sat in my new recliner. It was incredibly comfortable, and I felt grateful. My apartment was messy, wrapping paper and ribbons scattered everywhere. But it was a good kind of messy, the kind that comes from family and love and second chances. I opened my journal and wrote, "Today was perfect." Not perfect in the way things used to be, back when I thought family meant avoiding conflict and always saying yes. But perfect in a new way, a way that's built on honesty and boundaries and mutual respect. My children have changed. Or maybe they've just become who they always could have been, once I stopped enabling them to be less. I thought about everything I'd learned this past year, about standing up for myself, about the difference between kindness and weakness, about how sometimes the most loving thing you can do is demand better from the people you love. I thought about Margaret, about how proud she'd be, not just of me, but of Sarah and Michael too. They'd stumbled, fallen hard, but they'd gotten back up. They'd faced their mistakes and worked to fix them. That's all anyone can do. The next morning, I got a call from Dr. Harris. It wasn't a scheduled session, just a check-in. "How was your Christmas, Roosevelt?" "It was good. Really good. I'm glad. You've come a long way this year. We all have. What's next for you?" I thought about that. "I think I'm going to start volunteering. Maybe at the library or the community center. I've spent so much time this year focused on my family, on fixing what was broken. But I have more to give. More life to live. I want to be useful again." That sounds wonderful. Over the next few months, I did exactly that. I started volunteering at the local library 3 days a week, helping with their literacy program. I taught adults how to read, working with people who'd somehow made it through life without that basic skill. It was humbling and rewarding. It reminded me why I'd become a teacher in the first place. Sarah's baby was born in early November, a healthy boy they named James. I was at the hospital for the birth, holding Sarah's hand while she pushed, watching my grandson enter the world red-faced and screaming. It was a miracle, pure and simple. Emma started middle school and joined the debate team. She was a natural, confident, and articulate. I went to every competition I could, sitting in the audience, bursting with pride. Lucas made the basketball team and scored 12 points in his first game. I was there for that too, cheering louder than anyone. Michael's business continued to grow. He hired 2 new employees and moved into a bigger office. He called me every Sunday, without fail, just to talk. Sometimes we discussed important things, but usually we just chatted about nothing. Sports, the weather, a funny thing baby Margaret had done. It was comfortable, easy, real. Sarah kept making her payments every month, $500 like clockwork. After 2 years, Shed paid back $12,000. She had a long way to go, but she never complained. She told me once, "I'm grateful for this payment plan, Dad. It keeps me grounded. It reminds me every month of what I almost lost, of what I did, and it makes me better." Now, sitting here in my apartment at 69 years old, I can say with certainty that I made the right choice. It wasn't easy. It cost me something, but it was right. I learned something important through all of this. You can love someone and still hold them accountable. You can forgive someone and still demand change. Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat, and being family doesn't give anyone the right to disrespect you. If I could go back, would I do things differently? Maybe. But maybe not. Because that awful Christmas dinner, that shove to the floor, that moment of humiliation, it woke me up. It showed me that I had been teaching my children the wrong lesson my whole life. I had been teaching them that I didn't matter, that my feelings were disposable, that they could treat me however they wanted, and I'd just absorb it with a smile. And once I stopped teaching that lesson, once I demanded better, everything changed. They rose to meet my expectations. They became the people I always knew they could be. Better people, stronger people, people who understand that love requires respect, that family requires effort, that forgiveness isn't free. So if you're out there, listening to this, and you're letting people take advantage of your kindness, letting family members treat you like you're less than, I want you to hear this clearly. You matter. Your feelings matter. Your dignity matters. And it's never too late to stand up and demand the respect you deserve. It won't be easy. It might cost you. There will be tears and anger and uncomfortable conversations, but in the end, you'll have something money can't buy: self-respect, and a family that finally sees you for who you really are. Worth the fight, worth the love, worth everything. Margaret used to say that the strongest trees are the ones that bend in the storm without breaking. I bent this past year. I bent so far I thought I might snap, but I didn't break, and neither did my family. We bent together, and now we're growing stronger, roots deeper, branches reaching toward the sun. That's my story. That's my lesson. Stand up, demand better, and don't you dare apologize for knowing your worth. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to make a hard choice like this with your own family? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for yourself? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think or feel something, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more stories like this, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's struggling with family, who's being taken for granted, who needs to know they're not alone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope this story gave you something valuable, whether that's perspective, comfort, or just the knowledge that sometimes standing up for yourself is the most loving thing you can do. Take care of yourselves out there, know your worth, and remember, it's never too late to demand the respect you deserve.